grow the research community who are working in digital manufacturing. So one of the things that has been absolutely fantastic in Connected Everything is the network of people who have emerged through our feasibility study funding and other activities such as our people movement and skills, our conferences and our networking activities. This slide just talks about all we do as a network. So we're also doing work where we're producing documents and guidance around particular thematic areas that we believe are very important for accelerating digital manufacturing, and you can see the information about those there, and Ollie's going to talk about them in a bit. We also work nationally to set the agenda of future funding and work with other networks across the UK as well. One of the things that we're very proud of in Connected Everything is the support we give to those who we fund to do feasibility studies. They're quite large projects really for feasibility studies that we fund in the region of £50,000 or £60,000. So we really want to make the most of them. So we provide a lot of wraparound support in terms of bringing those who are successful in achieving funding for feasibility studies together, but also in supporting accessible dissemination of that work as well. If you could move on to the next slide, please. So just to talk a little bit about the project, it's a roughly £1 million project over 3 years. It's got a number of different activities, but the majority of the funding we've been awarded by EPSRC is for feasibility studies. And this is actually the third call of this iteration of Connected Everything. We have a strong focus on early career staff, and we really want to use the feasibility studies as an opportunity for not only you to bring in your great scientific ideas, but also to learn a bit about the practice of putting a really good proposal together, pitching a proposal to the panel, working as a multidisciplinary team. So it's not just the science that's important as an output from this particular network, but also the skills that the people who deliver the feasibility studies develop. And we've been very, very pleased to see that many of the teams that we funded through the first round of Connected Everything have gone on to use their feasibility study experience to obtain very, very large follow-on grants and follow-on activities. And actually, Fiona, Nick and Peter, who are now co-investigators of the project, were people who participated in the first Connected Everything project through feasibility studies. So we've actually grown the network through the feasibility studies directly. It is really important that the feasibility studies respond to a real industry need. This is not the same type of topic as you might see funded, let's say, through a new investigator award in EPSRC, because it's about taking an idea and accelerating it quite rapidly through the technology readiness levels. So we ask for all of our feasibility studies to have some industrial alignment and partnership. We do recognise that forming these networks to build those industrial partnerships, particularly early on in your career, can be quite daunting and quite challenging. And we are here to help if there are any individuals who think they've got some great ideas but don't quite understand how to maybe navigate the process of finding an industry partner, and we can answer questions on that as well. And we do also ask that everyone embeds considerations of equality, diversity and inclusion and responsible innovation in their proposed activity, and we're happy to talk about what that means in more detail. Next slide, I think, Deborah. Just some practicalities. Hopefully you've got all of this information from the website, but the projects can be between 6 and 12 months long. They must complete before the end of May 2022. Because we're nearing the end of our 3 years of funding, that is going to be a definite end point. We're obviously very cognizant of the impact of COVID. We are working on the basis that studies and access to labs and things will be back again by June, but there won't be an opportunity to extend the payment of funding and the completion of work beyond May 2022. The total budget for this call is £240,000. We encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. If people are able to bring in additional funding from industry, that means we can fund more projects. So I'll allow you to sort of think that through and ask any questions. And we also make a maximum award at 80% full economic cost. This means that we do expect demonstration of the remaining 20% of that full economic cost being met by the host university, whether that's through payment of academic time, or other direct financial contributions. Next slide, please. I think Ollie's going to talk through the thematic areas now, so over to you.
Hi, thanks, Sarah. So as Sarah said, my name's Ollie, and I'm the Research Fellow and Knowledge Exchange Lead here at Connected Everything. So the thematic areas act as Connected Everything's kind of definition for digital manufacturing and guide the network's activities, such as the feasibility studies. During the first iteration of Connected Everything, 6 thematic areas were identified and development work undertaken on each led by a member of the executive group. This included industry interviews, workshops, and other activities, and resulted in published reports for each area. Further work was then done to distill these reports into 4 research challenges, and again a report was published, and this work fed directly into the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund Made Smarter Challenge definition, working closely with colleagues at the High Value Manufacturing Catapult. So for Connected Everything second iteration, the thematic areas have kind of been refreshed, and the thematic areas were revised in conjunction with industry road mapping activities to ensure the work of the network continues to be aligned with issues of societal importance, industry priority, and technical capability. As you can now see here on the slide, there are now 7 themes, some of which were carried directly over from the previous 6, as they were deemed to still be of high importance, some of which have been evolved based off recent research, and some of which are completely new, such as the regulation, standards and guidance, and have been added to the network in response to the kind of demands of industry as it transitions towards digital manufacturing. For full definitions of all the Connected Everything thematic areas, head over to our website, and I'll now hand over to Nick, who's going to introduce some of the funded feasibility studies.
Thanks, Ollie. Hi everyone, I'm Nick Watson from the University of Nottingham. As Sarah mentioned, I'm one of the co-investigators on Connected Everything 2, and I had one of the feasibility projects in Connected Everything 1. So my research expertise is digital manufacturing, primarily within the food and drink sector, so in process sensing, data analytics, those areas. And my feasibility study was actually on monitoring fermentation in breweries, so working with a local brewery in Nottingham. And just going back to something that Sarah was saying, is it really is about a journey. It takes time, and actually we're just, even though our feasibility project started, I think, in 2017, or I think it was then, we're actually just publishing the papers from that work now. So we acknowledge it does take some time. I'm just going to talk about some of the projects very briefly of what we've funded in Connect Everything 2. But what I'd advise you to do is actually go on our website and click on the links and have a look at these in a bit more detail. When you're thinking of your ideas as well, I think it's worth pointing out that we mean digital manufacturing in the broadest sense of the word digital and the broadest sense of the word manufacturing. I was just looking down the list of who we've got on the call today, and it's great to see people from non-engineering backgrounds, so some from computer science, business, arts, and absolutely these are the areas we want to look at, because we really want that interdisciplinary research. So what have we funded so far? So the first round, which was about this time last year, we funded 3 projects. So we had University of Liverpool, and they're looking at manufacturing 3D printed morphing origami solar sails for next generation CubeSats. And I'd advise you to go and have a look on, there's quite a lot in that title, but go and have a look on the video online. But this is really about having these 3D printed objects that can go in space and they can harvest this energy. So it's absolutely fantastic. And that's what I mean when I say manufacturing. It's thinking about those industries in the future, how we're going to explore space and utilize space is a great example there. Second project from Cambridge, Alexandra, that's Agent Chat. And this was really looking at using data analytics and modeling within logistics and understanding if we've got all these trucks traveling around, but are they really using that space effectively? And how can we use data and understanding what's in those trucks to use them more efficiently? So every time a truck is traveling, it's as much a capacity as it could be, so through co-loading. The third project from the guys from Bristol, this was embedded intelligent empathy in design, and this is a really exciting project, and it's about looking at that idea about what does empathy mean for the users of these products that are being manufactured, and how can that be brought into design. So that's something that doesn't usually get considered too much in the manufacturing space, these kind of social science aspects. So that's what's happening in that project. Our second feasibility call was really focusing on standards and regulations, because we felt it was one of our themes we probably haven't put as much energy into as some of the other areas. So we wanted to work on that, and we were working with our partners, BSI, British Standards Institute, looking at these, and we funded 2 projects. So Rami from Birmingham is going to be working on novel digital twins for compliant debts within smart manufacturing, so looking at some of these assets and how we can model how they're utilised through their life. And the guys from Asfar and Phil from Nottingham Trent will be looking at studying mental stress factors in occupational safety in the context of smart factories. So that's as people in the factories of the future are working with these digital technologies, whether it's robots, VR headsets, how does that impact their mental health? And can we, having all these inputs coming in and having to interact and work in different ways? So they're going to study that. And again, you looking at the title, you can see there's a lot of interdisciplinary aspects to that research. But have a look on our website. There's those projects, but you'll also see the ones we funded through Connected Everything 1. And again, you'll see there's such a diverse range of projects that whatever you're thinking, I'm pretty sure it'll be in scope. But we can explore that later. So thanks. Next slide. I'm not sure if I'm talking next. No.
Thanks, Nick. That's great. So I just thought this is Deborah Fernshaw. I just thought I would give you a quick overview of the key dates in the process. So as you know, the call went live on the 12th of January, and we've tried to extend the deadline and give people as much time as possible to think about what they want to submit by the 22nd of February at 5 p.m. So we know that everyone is exceptionally busy. We've all got a lot on our plate, so we've tried to be as generous as we can with the timescales for you to think about your proposals. Please note that when you submit your proposal, we do ask for the process for you to submit it on the Word documents that have been and the templates which have been given on the website. So please don't try and merge any of those parts. We really do want your ideas to be submitted in those 3 sections, because we're really keen to maintain the anonymous process of being able to review your research ideas. So those invitations, so all your proposals will be reviewed by 2 reviewers who will then make a recommendation as to whether the proposal should go forward to our panel pitch day, and you will get a good month's notice of whether you've been invited to panel pitch, where you'll have a 5-minute opportunity, which we appreciate is quite a tough ask, to distill your research idea into 5 minutes, but you'll have 5 minutes in which to present your research idea, and then there'll be a question and answer session with the panel. So that day on the 27th of April, obviously it will be online, so we're hoping that will allow ease of participation, because there won't be any transport issues, and we ask for 3 members of the project team, or a maximum of 3 members of the project team, to present, just to make the day run smoothly as possible and not to have screens too crowded. By the 6th of May, people will be informed whether their proposal has been successful, and then that will follow up with a kick-off meeting. And really, I think both as Nick and Sarah have alluded to, once you're successful with your feasibility study, then we really do want to give you every opportunity to get involved in the Connected Everything network. So that kick-off meeting is really starting to think about ways that you can do that, some ideas. One of the things that we ask people to do is all the one-page summaries we've got on our website. They are produced fairly early on with the support of myself and Ollie, to help get those 1-page summaries, and we've found that they've been so useful to help those successful feasibility studies really communicate their research to the outside world in a very accessible way. So we help you produce those 1-page summaries, and then obviously at the same time, hopefully your feasibility studies will begin in June 2021, with a hard completion of May 2022. So again, if people have any more questions about the key dates and processes, we'd be happy to take those at the end of the session. So just a little bit more about the process. As I mentioned, it's a two-stage process. Part 1 for identifying details and Part 2 for your research proposal. And Part 3 is for the budget. So again, as I mentioned earlier, please don't try and merge those. Ideally, again, if you can keep those in Word format rather than putting them in a PDF, and then again, that's really, really helpful for me, because as soon as I receive your proposal, I immediately allocate it a unique reference number, and it's really good to get that on the proposal immediately. And when it's a PDF document, that's a lot harder for me to do. So please keep things as Word documents. Thank you. On receipt of your submission, I'll be sending you a equality, diversity and inclusion monitoring form. And this is voluntary, but if you do decide to complete it, then it really helps us better understand how we can support our Connected Everything community and where our gaps are. And as a result of receiving that information from our previous calls, it's really helped us think about how we can do sessions like today, how we can make sure we're more accessible. Ollie has been producing a series of podcasts to help people prepare for this process. Our first podcast is on our YouTube channel at the moment. There'll be a link to that later. As I say, each proposal will be reviewed by 2 people. They only get the anonymous parts of the form, so they won't know who is behind the research idea. And then those recommendations go to a small group to then agree who will finally go to the panel pitch. So again, all of that process is done anonymously. And then the panel pitch itself is made up from various people from academic fields and industry, and it's only at this point that people know, who is behind the research idea and who's coming to panel. And then, as I mentioned, people who are funded will then attend a kick-off meeting, and also we do match each of the teams with a mentor to really help you progress your research, act as a sounding board, and hopefully be a really good source of support as you go through your feasibility study. So now back to Nick and Fiona to talk about their top tips as people who've experienced the feasibility study process.
I don't know if Fiona wants to start, because you've already heard from me. Are you there, Fiona?
Yeah, I think my camera's working. Oh,
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
no, it's. Oh, can you hear me? Unfortunately, my video is not working for some reason.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So my top tips, I guess, I mean, we're really keen for you to start as early as possible, fleshing out your ideas with your potential partners. And from previous experience of working with industrial partners, we know that they really appreciate the opportunity to get involved in this type of research too, because as you know, a feasibility study insinuates, we are looking for kind of speculative and high risk kind of early stage research, which industrial partners rarely get the opportunity to engage in at this type of level. So one of my top tips would be to engage your partners as early as possible to start really thinking through those innovative ideas. Also, another tip, I guess, from me is thinking about recruitment. Because of the nature of feasibility studies being, less than a year long, sometimes one of the common risks and challenges can be recruiting a person specifically for that study. So if you have got someone in mind, someone coming to the end of their PhD, for example, a postdoc that could fulfill that position, I'd really encourage you to kind of engage with them as early as possible.
Is that the only one from?
Right, I think I'll...
Sorry, thanks. I think my 4-year-old was trying to get in on his top tips as well. But yeah, Nick, do you want to have a go at talking about yours?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, some good points there. I think in terms of the kind of application, start early. I'm sure most of you've got ideas, but just don't, if you're not sure of anything like the process, as Deborah was saying, just get in touch. Just send us an email, and we can do that. In terms, when you're actually writing the thing, get your partners involved. Look at the application process, the assessment criteria, and try and get feedback as soon as possible from colleagues within your organisations, within your networks. I think that's really important. In terms of actually kind of, Sarah's coming now. Yeah, in terms of actually starting the project, I think absolutely it's the the challenges are generally not the research side. It's the getting people in place. As Fiona was saying, I remember on our project we had someone lined up who was fantastic, but because they were fantastic, they got a longer term position somewhere else that they preferred to take, and that delayed things as well. So getting us, and by us I mean Deborah, in touch with the contracts team in your university, so we can get all that process done. You can get budgets and you can start recruiting. It's really important. I guess there's a bit here about thinking about what your kind of end game is. So what's this feasibility study is really meant to lead on to bigger things, and that's the thing. When I review some of these proposals, sometimes doesn't come out strong enough. As in, what will you do? I mean, everyone writes, yeah, I'm going to write a EPSRC proposal at the end of this, but what's the actual proposal on, and how does this feasibility study lead to that? What's the thing you don't understand now that you need to get out of this? And start doing those activities as early as possible. I think the other tips are use the network, as Sarah was saying. We don't want to just give you money and then walk away. We're looking to be active in helping you. One of the things I found really useful was, even before we'd started the project, we were asked to put together a one-page sheet of what we were going to do, and put something on the website and a video, and that was really useful, because when I was going out talking to other partners and other academics and about the project, I said, well, actually, you can go on the website and have a look, and there's details there, and that was really useful. And then when the project finished, we had a much longer case study, 4 pages with the main findings, and again, that's a great way to advertise that, because we're still waiting for the papers to come out, but having something that we can show people what we've actually done, they can see how it works, and that was written by someone within the network, so to try and make it less of an academic output, as more as something that the non-expert was understand. So I found that really useful as well. Yeah, I think another point that's on the slides, which Sarah usually presents, is it's okay to fail. They are feasibility studies. If you try it and it doesn't quite work, that's absolutely fine. So don't worry too much about that. We want risky, out there ideas that you can try. So don't be scared for going for that. But I think talked about quite a lot there. But the main thing is, if you're not sure, get in touch.
Yeah, and just one additional point that I've just thought about, Nick, is when you're thinking about your idea, even though this is for a feasibility study, I would really encourage you to think about the big picture idea. I mean, when I was applying for my own feasibility study several years ago now, actually it was a really good stepping stone towards a full proposal. So off the back of the feasibility study, we actually applied for a full EPSRC 3-year project, which got funded largely because we'd already tested out a small part of the idea through the feasibility study. So even if you've got a really great big idea, think about how the feasibility study can test, a smaller part of that, which is exactly, what these feasibility studies are about.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for the early career researchers, maybe when they don't have the lots of resources to try stuff out anyway before they go for proposals. So I think that's a really good point.
And I think just one point that I forgot to put in my bit was during the process of this, then we do ensure that we do get good feedback from the reviewers and from the, and should the proposal progress to the panel pitch, that we get feedback again. So we really hope that as a result of this, even if you're not successful, you will get some really good feedback out of this to help you, think again, or think about a different direction, or just think about a different perspective. So what I try and do with that feedback is actually give everyone a quick call just to talk that through, rather than getting a bit of a blunt email. And then at least if you've got questions, there's a chance that we can follow that up and continue the conversation about that. So we really do try and make sure that everyone gets quality feedback as a result of submitting their proposal.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, I've taken some calls as well with people to discuss certain aspects and feedback, so we're always welcome to do that.
That's great. Thank you so much for everyone who started putting some questions through. If you want to, if we just try and go through the questions now, and if you want to switch yourself off mute so you can actually ask the team your questions. So I'm not quite sure on which name is first, but Milan Markovic, would you like to come on? And you've asked a couple of questions, so do you want to ask those now?
Hi there.
Hi there, we can hear you.
I'm Milan from the University of Aberdeen. Hi, Nick. Yeah, so I've got a couple of pretty much technical questions because we've got some experience bidding for these feasibility studies from other network classes. And I just would like you to clarify whether postdocs like myself could be essentially PIs for the project. And the another technical question was regarding what sort of proof you need from the industry partner about their involvement, because different networks have different rules, you know, and sometimes they try to make the industry partner to sign a contract, which then kind of makes it more difficult for us to get partners, you know. So I was wondering whether a letter of support is sufficient.
Deborah, do you want me to? So Deborah can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But I think the answer to the first one is yes. Postdocs can be PIs because the EPSRC formal award has been made to us as the University of Nottingham with the other partners, and we're essentially distributing that that funding. We've got a bit more flexibility than the formal EPSRC rules. We would expect the normal assurance that you get, which is around sort of the postdocs contract is long enough to be able to support the activity. But actually, we strongly encourage that this is an opportunity to be a PI on a grant that that might then help to progress individuals' careers. The other thing is we are really trying to challenge ourselves away from the focus on PIs anyway, and looking much more at the team that's delivering the activities, because one of the things we notice is that there can be an unhelpful focus on the PI. So that's something else that we're trying to look at systemically. Deborah, are you okay to, I mean, so the answer is yes, a letter of support from industry partners is enough. But Deborah, you might be able to just clarify any requirements around contract or anything. I don't think we really have anything, but Deborah, do you just want to clarify?
Yeah, no, industry partners, yeah, we're not expecting to see that. I mean, what we do really is we're trying to make this process as easy as possible. So if you want to include a letter of support, that's great. But again, please kind of have that separately. Otherwise it kind of ruins the anonymisation process. But we don't insist on that. So so yeah, if you want to include it, you can, but there's no insistence. And no, they don't need to sign a contract. The contract will be purely between, you know, in this case, as Nottingham is the host university for Connected Everything, and the institution where the PI is sitting.
Yeah. So we'd expect you to be thinking very carefully about intellectual property. And we would, one of the things we'd keep a bit of an eye out for is we would make sure that Connected Everything isn't funding something that should be industry consultancy. So we're looking very much for the industry partner to be stimulating the ideas, stimulating the innovation, but being being a partner in sort of almost supporting the activity. If it's something that would be in the realms of generating IP, and the sorts of things that usually require us to be contract, that's probably not right for the Connected Everything project anyway. So so that's how we deal with that.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
That's great. I think it's Paolo next with your question.
Yeah,
Paolo.
hello. I'm Paolo Pollitt from the University of Liverpool. I had a question about the timing of the project, because it's clear that they can't run over May 2022, but can they start later?
I think the answer is yes. So the limitation is on funding, obviously, and it's something we've had to ask people to be very flexible with funding anyway in the response to COVID. So yes, it could start later, but the absolute cutoff is the end of is May 2022. And actually, Julie has sort of put another sort of question. So it's up to you to specify the time needed for the project. £60,000 usually works out to about 6 months of a researcher time. So, but obviously you can mix and match that in whichever way you wish.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ju, do you feel that answered your question as well? I'm thinking it is. So basically, yes. It's 6. Oh, fantastic! Thank you.
Yes,
so,
thank you.
So yeah, so 6 to 12 months is the maximum. But basically, because this is our last call for this round of for this particular iteration of Connected Everything, we really will need to stick by the hard deadline date of May 2022 for the projects to finish. Sue Cullen, you've got a question.
Sarah, not Sue.
Hello. Yes, Sarah. Hello. Thank you for the session. I've just got a quick question on budgeting, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure if you could hear me. So are you expecting to see indirects included within the budget? And would that be the standard overhead cost for universities rather than making any reductions on that to make room in the budget?
Deborah, are you okay to take that one?
Yeah, I am. So I'm just looking at the so the Part 3 budget form is a very, very simple form, hopefully for people to complete. And it includes indirectly incurred costs, DI, staff, travel and subsistence, and directly allocated costs for investigators' estates, infrastructure and other. So it is an extremely simple form, which I think outlines the key bits that we're wanting to see.
And so the answer is yes, and that's why we're only funding at 80%, because the indirect costs are included in the costing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's great. All right, thank you.
There's a question about mentorship. I don't know whether you want to take this one, Nick. This is from Mogadam Payman. I don't know if you want to come in.
Hi, Payman, are you there? Or maybe, but I can answer the question. No problem. Do you want to ask your question or? Oh, all right.
Oh, it's all right.
Okay,
we've got childcare going on there as well. We all understand. Mine is 13, so he doesn't scream very much.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so what we try and do with mentors is we look at the kind of feedback from the reviewers, the panel, and say, because there's no such thing as a kind of perfect proposal, perfect project, and we look at like what are the kind of the areas that it could do with support. So if it is something on the kind of like, okay, they're really good academically and technically, but maybe they don't quite understand how this would work for industry, we would put someone who understood industry. Whereas if we thought there was maybe skills missing in a particular area, we would find a mentor that kind of complemented and provided that expertise. And yeah, absolutely, the mentor could be someone who would talk to you about that journey, about commercializing technology. I know that's what we've done for some of the feasibility projects. But the mentorship's very much about it's very bespoke to each project and what those projects need. And also we usually get in touch with the successful projects and also ask them what do you kind of think you need, as well as what we kind of think. And it's that kind of a process. But yeah, I know the project I had someone from the knowledge transfer network, so they were very much helping in linking up with companies and coming up with ideas, and quite a senior person in that network as well. So yeah, really useful. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think yeah. So no, that sounded great to me, Nick. That's really helpful. So there's another question actually about industries and multiple industries. So Kazim Ahmed, I don't know if you want to come in and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sarah. So my question is, because sometimes the project is revolving around multiple industries, right? So in that case, do we need to get a letter from all of them, or maybe just the primary industry member is enough to get a letter for the proposal? And then, because sometimes there are multiple user cases, and then you think of maybe this user case is the one more appropriate as compared to the other ones around. And then when you are doing a feasible study, then you might want to change the direction. So in that case, do you need partners?
Again, just to reiterate what we said earlier, we're not insistent on letters of support from industry. If you want to provide them, then please do give them to me, but please keep them separate, to your other documents in the process. If you basically as part of the panel pitch process, we will look in that in more detail, but again, we're not insistent on letters of support.
I think if I could just jump in quickly, I think it's just about in your application evidencing who these partners are and you've actually got engagement with them. If for example, you listed a load of companies you wanted to work with and you thought would be interested, but there hadn't been initial discussions, to a reviewer that might look quite weak. So I think it's just don't need the letters, but just some way demonstrating that these are companies you've worked with, you've had initial discussions, is kind of what we're looking for.
And I would just put yourself in the position of the reviewers and the panel. So what we're looking for is, are these ideas that have engaged industry, that have got a direct relevance to industry, and will industry potentially be a potential route for taking the ideas through to innovation in some sort of structured way? So what we're really looking for is a meaningful bit of evidence of interaction with industry. This is a feasibility study, as Nick said. We really want to fund the risky research that you need a bit of pilot data to demonstrate a proof of concept to decide whether this is something you want to pursue at a bigger scale or not. So, so we're really looking, I suppose, more for the genuine evidence of interaction with industry, and however it's best to communicate that, that's up to you to think about in the feasibility study.
That's really helpful. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
So we have 2 questions from Iman. Do you want to come on and ask your questions?
Yeah, hi. So we are considering different fields or application domains, and I personally have a problem with the limits or the boundaries of what digital manufacturing means. So does the company have to be manufacturing something, or can it be a company in a industry partner in the field of logistics, for example?
So I think the basic answer is yes, it can be a partner from something that's much more associated, say, with the supply chain. I'd encourage you to go back to the thematic areas, actually, because what you'd need to do is just make sure that you are demonstrating that your work is aligned in some way with one of the thematic areas. They're deliberately quite broad, and I would say a potential criticism of us as a network so far as we've been very focused on the production environment, and I personally would welcome something which thinks more broadly, although actually a notable exception was the project that Fiona was involved in the first Connected Everything around circular economy, for example. So so I do think that other partners such as logistics would be absolutely appropriate, but do make sure that the topic of the feasibility study has got a clear alignment to one of the thematic areas. Really interesting question you've put there about UK presence, and whether the partners have to have a base operation in the UK or whether a branch or office would suffice. And I don't recall ever being asked this question. I don't think it matters. I suppose, you know, EPSRC funding is about accelerating science, engineering, innovation and knowledge in the UK. But of course, you as researchers are based in the UK, and that's talent we're developing in the UK. So I don't see a major challenge there, but I don't know, Nick, Deborah, Fiona, am I missing anything?
Yeah, I'd kind of echo what you said, Sarah. As long as I think if there's some presence and benefits, I think the only thing I can think is if it's in certain sectors like aerospace or defence where there's rules about certain countries the UK can and can't kind of work with. That would be my only thing just to think about. If you're really not sure and you want to send Deborah email, it'll go around the academy and we'll come back to you with an answer on that. And we can even check it with the EPSRC if we need be. Yeah. I don't think it's a problem, but if you're not sure, we will check for you.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Great, thank you. Amanda, you've got a question.
Hi, yes, hi everyone. Hi. I was just hoping to get a bit of guidance on the equality and diversity considerations that you've mentioned in the application form.
Right. Do you want me to start, or do you want to go, Deborah?
If you want to start, Ned. Sorry, Ned. Sarah. Sorry. We've all got children on our mind, haven't we?
I've been called wives and partners before. I'm not sure I've ever been called their name of their child.
So sorry.
No, it's good. It's a theme of the more. I'll get mine in soon. So the equality, diversity, and inclusion considerations is something we're actually very proud of within the network, because one of our goals is to really diversify the the community that engages with digital manufacturing more generally. And so first of all, we consider diversity in terms of not just protected characteristics, but also care responsibilities, and also considering diversity of disciplines, because that's something that we really want to sort of bring through in the multidisciplinary work. So we're looking at a few things. We're looking at the makeup of the team that's involved in delivering the project. We're also, and this is a change that we're still learning on how best to deliver EDI as part of the network. We're also, I think, starting to look at the responsible innovation and the inclusion of the work that's included. So let's say you're looking at some artificial intelligence technology that might be using computer vision to monitor processes during production, which is actually a sort of a project that I'm working on. Well, we need to make sure that there is due consideration of those computer vision technologies in terms of the inclusion around ethnicity, or the inclusion around other different physical characteristics such as disability, for example. So if there is a particular aspect of the technology or the intervention that might require a consideration of the impact of that technology on a wider population, we would also be looking for that to be considered. It's worth saying that both responsible innovation and EDI are things that are exceptionally important to EPSRC as something that should be embedded in everything that they fund. And it's something that I'm personally involved in, sort of leading that activity from the EPSRC side of things, but also I think is going to be increasingly important in generating the best possible innovations in terms of manufacturing and engineering and science. So I think they're the two areas I would consider. So it's around the makeup of the team, and it's around the technology that's being developed and the impact that will have from an industrial and a societal perspective. Deborah also sort of mentioned that we try and embed a consideration of EDI in the way in which we're running the feasibility study process, to make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to deliver to their full potential. So, and that's really about recognising that there are some things that are systemically not great in some submission processes. So we're trying to specifically address that through things like the anonymisation of the processes. And we're also recognising that there may be some value in giving additional support. It's one of the reasons why we do this Q&A, because some people might be part of great teams at universities where they get loads of peer support for developing feasibility studies, and others might not. So that's where we sort of offer that community from a network point of view. Nick, did you want to come in as well?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I was just going to say the other area that you might want to consider, I don't know what you're thinking about for your proposal, but a lot of the projects kind of have user engagement or worker engagement, and that's a really important area to make sure that that's done in the right way, that you're getting a good, fair, representative group of people at those kind of workshop activities, questionnaire activities, things like that. Yeah, just making sure any events that you run, if you are running events, are inclusive as possible, so they take into account people joining via different means, people with care responsibilities, things like that. I think this is an area to really look at. And I think one of the linking on that, I've done a bit of work with some colleagues in computer science and kind of human robot interactions, and there one of the challenges we have is finding participants in these kind of projects who are actually representative to the kind of people who would use those technologies in the real world, because we tend to get PhD students who have a very different kind of mindset and skill set to a factory worker. And there's issues there about whether that's representative, and that touches on the boundaries of responsible research, innovation, and EDI. But again, I've said it before, any questions, you can just send us an email and we can help you with that.
Great.
Brilliant. Thank
okay,
you. That's really helpful. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Great. Okay, I think we've just got one more. Well, two more questions have come in. Is that from Yichi? Is that correct? Sorry about the pronunciation. Would you like to come on?
Thanks, Deborah. So I have two questions. One is related to, well, basically both are related to the industrial support. So I noticed that in the Form 3 for the finance part, there is an industrial contribution. But do you accept in-kind industrial contribution, and if so, then how do I put the kind of, do I need to provide an estimate about that, the monetary value of that in-kind support? So that's the first question. The second question is that in this case, how do I need to anonymize these companies involved in the project in the part 2 of the application form? Thank you.
Great questions. Thank you. Shall I just go for the in-kind support answer first? So what we do ask is that just in that Excel spreadsheet, in all honesty, we just want cash. Because we really want to be able to understand exactly how much funding you want. However, we do ask for that budget to be annotated. So if you do have like an in-kind figure from industry, then by all means just include that in the comments, include that in the annotation. But in the Excel spreadsheet itself, we need to understand what that cash figure is, because, for example, if you were successful, that's the figure that will go into your contract, and we don't want to. We need to make sure that that figure's correct. And in terms of anonymisation in the application form, it's a really good question. Sarah might have a different view, but my view is it kind of depends. If you feel that naming them will lead directly to you being then easily associated, if that easily associates you with that research, then it would on the first part of the form, when you're describing your project team, you could say, I'm just.
I can give you an example, Deborah. Thank you. I think really good point. Really great question, actually, Yishay. I think that normally we would say, no, you don't need to anonymise it. But Deborah is absolutely correct that there may be a circumstance, let's say a very local spin-out SME that works only with you on your university, you might not want to reveal it. I can think of an example, for example, the University of Southampton has absolutely loads of optics SMEs, and there are probably some where if you named the optics organisation, you'd be able to guess it was University of Southampton. So in that case, I think that the key is to make sure that you don't accidentally reveal your identity as a research team. So therefore, it would be sensible to say a local SME that delivers optics technology or something like that. So if you feel that there might be a danger of identifying you through the name of the industry, then don't name it. Excellent question, though. We had not had that question before, and it just shows you the number of things we need to keep thinking through in terms of really getting this process right. So. If I could just note about the in-kind support, one way that if you were getting a letter of support, which isn't essential, but you could always note the in-kind support through the letter of support, and that's a way to just signal it, but not muddle up the Excel spreadsheet that Deborah needs.
I see. Thank you very much for your answer.
Glad that helped. So we have a little bit of time left on the call, but if there are no further questions, then I appreciate that everyone is busy. So if there are any other questions, now's your opportunity. Otherwise, we will say goodbye and thank you. But as Nick and Sarah and Fiona have all reiterated, if you are having any more, if you've got any more thoughts and questions, then please do, let us know. What I'll do is I have all your email addresses through the Eventbrite registration. So I will PDF the presentation that we've given today. So you'll have that to refer to anyway, because there were quite a few embedded links there, which will be, good for you to click onto if you want to follow that up.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Deborah, as always, for organising, and thanks to my colleagues for their presentations. Well done to all of you who are battling with care responsibilities alongside academic work. It's very tough at the moment. You're all doing a very good job, so well done. And I look forward to seeing all the applications. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.